After 10 years of dating, I was finally marrying my CEO boyfriend, but his assistant photoshopped herself into our wedding photo and broadcast it on the giant screen. The guests, all friends of my fiancé, burst into laughter and teasing. Wow, it actually looks better like this. I never realized Ethan and Diana looked so perfect together. Stop it, Laura gets jealous so easily, she's gonna go nuts. I just responded blandly, they do look like a good match. I turned to Ethan, but realized he hadn't even heard what I said. What I saw instead was his unfiltered joy as he stared at the altered wedding photo. I sneered and walked out of the stifling banquet hall. Then I made a call to my father, who I hadn't spoken to in a long time. Dad, I agree to the arranged marriage. Chapter 1. Right after hanging up with my father, Ethan's call came through. Laura, can you stop being such a brat? The bride's gone missing on our wedding day, so what if you're mad about the picture? Diana already apologized. What more do you want from her? I let out a bitter laugh. He didn't even realize when I left the hall. But of course, he only had eyes for Diana. He hadn't spared me a glance in ages. Diana explained everything. Her mom's seriously ill and just wanted to see her daughter in a wedding dress. She just edited our photo to comfort her mom. Can't you just be the bigger person? I opened my mouth, but couldn't make a sound. When it came to Diana, Ethan always expected me to be the bigger person. She once sabotaged a deal I'd worked months to close. He told me to let it go. Now she ruined our wedding, and I'm still the one who has to show grace. No, what mattered to me had never mattered to him. I'm ordering you to get back here right now. The wedding's not even over, and I have clients to meet tonight. Then he hung up. Ethan was angry. He'd always bark orders like that when he was pissed. And I'd always obey. But not this time. Just then my father texted me the location for the arranged meeting. As I opened it, a new message popped up from Diana. A photo. Her wearing the wedding dress I picked for myself, pressed close to Ethan's arm. Ethan was gazing at her with utter affection. She added, Laura, don't I look stunning? Ethan says he loves me in this dress. He couldn't keep his hands off me. He also said your figure is just not inspiring. At all. Even through the screen, her smugness was palpable. The old me would have stormed back into the hall and slapped her. But now I just felt dirty, remembering I once held Ethan's hand. This wasn't Diana's first time taunting me like this. So when the edited photo showed up at rehearsal, I already knew who was behind it. But Ethan, he always believed whatever Diana said. Even when I showed him her messages, he'd just accuse me of being immature. Can you stop overreacting for once? Suddenly my phone rang again. Before I realized it, I'd already picked up. Ethan's roar came through the speaker. Laura, what did you say to Diana? She just left saying she'd convince you to come back, and now she's crying? I let out a laugh. Sure, Ethan. Keep defending her. Keep blaming me. But I'm not playing this game anymore. Because I just don't care. This relationship, it ends here. Whatever she said, sure. Believe it. And I'm not coming back. I hung up. I hailed a cab to the address my dad had sent. There I met Sam, my blind date. He had a cold, intimidating face, but his voice was surprisingly gentle. Miss Laura, if I'm not mistaken, you were supposed to be getting married today. Why meet me behind your fiancé's back? I was trying to explain when Ethan's name flashed on my screen again. I reached to hang up, but Sam spoke calmly. Go ahead. You can answer. I glanced down my contact for Ethan's still read fiancé. I answered with gritted teeth. Laura, are you trying to embarrass me today? How many times do I have to tell you? Diana is just my assistant. Nothing's going on. It's just a wedding, okay? I'll throw you another one if that's what you want. Don't be so ungrateful. Even without speakerphone, his yelling turned heads all around us. 10 years of dating, 10 years of waiting for this wedding. But now I didn't want it anymore. Don't bother. I wish you and Diana a long, happy life. I hung up with a deep breath, then looked up. Sam was smiling faintly. No need to explain, Miss Laura. I'm quite satisfied with you. I've cleared my afternoon schedule. Let's go get the marriage license. Chapter 2. After leaving the Civil Affairs Bureau, I sent a photo of our marriage certificate to my father. He was so pleased that he wired me a large sum of money, instructing me to throw a grand, extravagant wedding. When I turned around, I saw Sam frowning at his phone. Curious, I peeked at his screen and realized he had posted our selfie and the marriage certificate photo on his social media. Now he was busy replying to the flood of comments. There was a genuine look of happiness on his face. It stunned me for a second. I took out my phone planning to see what he was saying, but we didn't seem to have any mutual friends. All I could see was my father's enthusiastic like. Instead, I accidentally stumbled upon a new post by Diana. It was a video of her and Ethan going through with the wedding. Caption, "So yeah, somehow I just ended up married." In the video, Ethan wore a look of complete bliss as he went through the ceremony and firmly declared, "I do." I had always imagined that if I ever saw this scene, I would break down in tears. But in reality, I felt calm. Ethan gave Diana's post a big like. Their coworkers all flooded the comment section with congratulations. "Told you Ethan and Diana are soulmates." My favorite ship finally came true, right? Unlike Laura, some nobody trying to marry up and play the rich wife. And neither of them offered a single explanation. When I was with Ethan, he never let me post any relationship content. Once I sneakily uploaded a photo of us. Not only did he immediately comment to clarify things, he later made me delete it. Back then, I thought he just didn't like making his private life public. Now I understand, if someone truly loves you, they want the world to know. If they don't, they just don't. While Sam was getting changed into his suit, I got a call from the hotel manager. He said Ethan had reached out wanting to reschedule the wedding and even add for more banquet tables because Diana's family and friends would be attending too. Since I was the one who organized everything, the cost of 4 extra tables would exceed my original budget, so the manager was checking with me first. "No need," I said. "Cancel the reservation." The manager paused, confused. "Also, please book me the most luxurious wedding package you offer. I'll go over the details with you later." After hanging up, I turned to see Sam walking toward me, freshly dressed in a sleek black suit. He looked sharp and distant, but the moment he smiled, he radiated the warmth of a big kid. It threw me off a little. He gently lifted the hem of my gown and led me cheerfully toward the photo studio. There was a faint, pleasant scent around him as we walked. He accidentally bumped into someone on the way. While politely helping them up, the person suddenly called out, "Laura." I looked closely. It was one of Ethan's friends. He looked at me, then at Sam, and shouted in disbelief, "You're cheating, I knew it. When you disappeared mid-wedding, turns out you were off with your side guy. How could you do that to Ethan after all these years together right before your wedding?" Ethan's friends were always a bunch of snakes. 10 years ago, when I first started dating Ethan, they helped him cover up his lies, so he could take my money and fool around. When they found out I'd fallen out with my family, they pounced on the opportunity to persuade Ethan to dump me. Once Diana came into the picture, this particular guy was the loudest cheerleader in her corner. Sam wanted to step in and defend me, but I wasn't about to let these people get under my skin anymore. I gave a cold laugh and shot back, "You all wanted Ethan and Diana to be together, right? Well, congrats, they got married. So from now on, stay out of my life, and feel free to wish them eternal happiness on my behalf. And for the record, this man is my fiancé, not some side piece. Keep running your mouth, and I'll personally rip that tongue out." Without sparing him another glance, I turned and walked off with Sam, who still looked a bit stunned. The photo shoot went exceptionally well. Even though I had to change into many different outfits and styles, I genuinely enjoyed every moment of it. It made me recall how back when I was doing wedding photos with Ethan, we'd booked 4 outfits and 4 styles, but after just the first look, he got impatient, called it off, and rushed off to meet Diana for a date. I shook my head and cleared the memory. Since I decided to go through with the arranged marriage, it was time to cut ties with the past once and for all. After parting ways with Sam, I went back to the house Ethan and I used to share to pack up my belongings. But to my surprise, I was blocked by the password lock at the door. After a few failed attempts, the door opened from the inside, and standing there was Diana, wearing my pajamas and our matching couple slippers with damp hair like she'd just showered. When she saw me, she smiled with fake sweetness. "Laura, you're finally back. Wasn't the old password the date you and Ethan got together? He thought I'd feel uncomfortable, so he changed it to our first date. Bet you don't know when that is. Huh, here, I'll show you." She stepped aside slightly, just enough to make space for me to walk in. I ignored her and entered. Only then did she close the door and follow behind me like she couldn't sit still unless I slapped her across the face. Just then, Ethan must have heard the door. He came out of the bathroom with only a towel wrapped around his waist. "Diana, can you bring me some underwear so I can blow dry your—" He froze mid-sentence the moment he saw me. Panic flickered across his face. "Laura, Diana and I were just at an event nearby. She just came to rest a bit, that's all." Nothing happened. I swear their relationship was practically written all over the walls. There was nothing left to misunderstand. He had a specific spot in the closet where he kept his underwear. Clearly, this wasn't the first time he'd asked Diana to fetch it. Let's be real. If a female assistant is casually bringing her boss's underwear, you'd have to be a fool to believe they were just coworkers. No misunderstanding. Ethan's eyes narrowed with irritation, and he barked in that arrogant tone of his. "Laura, what kind of attitude is that? I heard from my friends you hired some actor to pose as your groom." "What? Trying to make me jealous? Well, now you know how I feel, so we're even, but you still ruined my wedding and made Diana cry, so now apologize to her." Right now, it was always like this. Right or wrong, somehow, it always ended with me being the one apologizing to Diana. At first, I didn't want to believe it. I brought out the evidence and tried to argue with Ethan. But he would only look at me with that same disappointed expression and ask, "When will you finally grow up?" Every time I saw that look, I felt inexplicably small and insecure, because I was afraid he might leave me. But all I got in return was Ethan and Diana becoming even more shameless. Looking past Ethan's shoulder, I clearly saw the bedroom. The clothes they'd worn earlier were tossed carelessly around the room. Diana's bra and panties were hanging from the bedside lamp, and a torn pair of stockings lay discarded by the bed. I let out a cold laugh. "Oh, did I interrupt your wedding night, Ethan? We're done." Chapter 3. Ethan's eyes widened in disbelief. "What do you mean, done? You dare break up with me?" I looked him in the eye and repeated every word clearly. "Ethan,
we are
over." Got it this time. This time I knew he heard me loud and clear. He stood there frozen. Diana walked up, putting on a fake, pitiful face. "It's all my fault." I begged him to let me come rest after a long business dinner. "I didn't think it'd affect your relationship. I should have just gotten a cab and rested on the way home." I stared at her double face, speechless. But what surprised me most was that Ethan turned and snapped at her. "Shut up." Diana hadn't expected the outburst to be aimed at her. She instantly shrank back. Then Ethan turned back to me. "Laura, I know you're angry. Tomorrow I'll give you another wedding. One that's perfect. I promise nothing will go wrong. I'll handle Diana, okay? She won't interfere with the ceremony tomorrow." Without waiting for a response, he turned around, got dressed in a hurry, grabbed Diana, and left the house. The room finally quieted down. I exhaled softly. After packing up the last of my belongings, I walked out of the house where Ethan and I had spent 10 years together. I never looked back. Not even once. Tomorrow Sam and I would be married. And Ethan and I would return to being strangers on parallel paths, never to cross again. Maybe it was the excitement about the next day's wedding. I woke up early. After picking Sam up and bringing him to the hotel, I went upstairs to get ready and put on my gown. I didn't have many close friends, so Sam had arranged for his sister to accompany me. Whether he asked her to be extra kind or not, they were all warm and welcoming toward me. And somehow that unfamiliar feeling of alienation began to fade. Everything proceeded as scheduled. Once the guests invited by my grandfather had mostly arrived, the wedding officially began. Standing at the entrance of the hall, I suddenly felt nervous when I saw Sam on the stage waiting for me. But the moment Grandpa took my hand and led me towards Sam, and I saw his calm, unwavering gaze through the veil, I finally felt at ease. Following the ceremony steps, Sam lifted my veil. We exchanged vows and were about to put on the rings. But just as I was about to slide the ring onto Sam's finger, the chapel doors were slammed open. "Laura, on our wedding day, I went to pick you up and you weren't there. What's the meaning of this chapter?" For I turned around to see Ethan standing at the entrance of the hall, furious. Behind him were his parents, Diana, and a crowd of relatives and friends. The hotel manager tried desperately to block them, but he was no match for their numbers. He was pushed aside and ended up scurrying over to me, apologizing profusely. It turned out when I asked him to change the wedding hall, he didn't realize the groom had changed too, so he had communicated with Ethan. Only after I later confirmed the wedding details did he realize the mix-up. I waved him off. It wasn't really his fault. Grandpa stood up and looked at me with a questioning gaze. I simply gestured for him to sit. I would handle this. Turning to Sam to apologize, I caught him calmly reassuring his parents. Then he looked at me, steadily, without a trace of panic. I couldn't help but think if it had been Ethan, he'd already be yelling at me, without a second thought. Taking a deep breath, I turned to face Ethan again. But before I could speak, Ethan broke free from security, rushed to the stage, and slapped me across the face. Laura, haven't you had enough? Didn't we resolve everything yesterday? I told you it wouldn't affect the wedding. What kind of new drama is this? Most of the people in the hall were my elders, so I restrained myself and replied coldly. I said it very clearly yesterday. Ethan, where? But he cut me off. Yeah, you said you wanted to break up. Just another one of your mind games, right? So when I didn't fall for it, you hired an actor to fake a wedding with you. I've seen this guy before. Isn't he the one who was with you at the photo shoot? Before I could respond, Diana jumped in with a smirk. Exactly, we've seen through your little performance. Just drop the act already. Look at all these extras you hired. Those outfits must have cost a fortune. You really went all in, huh? Then she turned to Sam, her tone openly mocking. And you, young man, sure you need money, but do you have to stoop this low taking a fake wedding gig, or were you just hoping to hook up with the bride? Her words sent fury straight to my chest. That's enough, but with so many people watching, I swallowed my anger and forced myself to remain calm. From my pocket, I pulled out our marriage certificate and opened it right in front of Ethan's face. Take a good look, Ethan. We're over. Let me reintroduce him. This is my husband, Sam. Chapter 5. In Ethan's dazed gaze, Sam leaned in and gently kissed me. I hadn't expected it, but I kept a calm expression as if nothing could faze me. Just then the security guards the hotel manager had called finally arrived. They began escorting Ethan and his entourage out of the hall. Ethan seemed to finally realize something. He broke free and rushed to me, grabbing my hand. Laura, this is all fake, right? You love me so much. How could you possibly marry someone else? I turned to Sam with an apologetic glance. He simply nodded silently, telling me it was okay. So I looked Ethan in the eye and said in the coldest tone I could manage, Ethan, I did love you. Very much. But that love is in the past. My husband is waiting. Please try to keep a shred of dignity for yourself. But Ethan clung to the corner of my dress, howling like a madman. No, impossible, this can't be happening. I was the one who stayed when you cut ties with your family. Tell me, what have I ever done to deserve this? I laughed, not out of joy, but disbelief. Stayed with me? You have the nerve to use the word loyalty. Should I expose all your dirty secrets with Diana in public before you finally admit to them? He straightened up, looking righteously indignant. Then go on, tell me what exactly happened between me and Diana. I've told you 1,000 times. She's just my assistant. You're the one being paranoid. Ethan genuinely seemed to believe he'd kept everything perfectly hidden. But I caught the flicker of fear in Diana's eyes, and in that moment I knew I wasn't crazy. I was also deeply grateful that I hadn't blocked Diana when I'd planned to, because all her smug, provocative messages were still right there on my phone. I sneered and reached into my pocket for my phone, but Diana suddenly lunged forward and grabbed my wrist. You heard him, didn't you? If he said nothing happened, then clearly he has a clean conscience, right? I'm just a broke little assistant. Someone like Ethan with his wealth and status would never look at me. Even if I had bad intentions, I wouldn't dare act on them. I laughed out loud. So the two of them weren't exactly united after all. I gave Sam a look. He instantly stepped back without needing a word. Then I raised my arm and slapped Diana square across the face. Smack! The crisp sound echoed through the silent room like a firecracker. Diana fell to the floor, clutching her cheeks, staring at me in disbelief. Ethan gasped and rushed over to check on her. Are you okay? Does it hurt? Laura, what gives you the right to hit someone? I took the wet wipes Sam handed me and began wiping my hand, looking down at them from above. Ethan, you crashed my wedding and shouted that you were the one I should marry. You claimed, loudly, that there was nothing between you and Diana. And yet, the moment she gets hurt, it's her you run to, her you worry about. Don't you think that's just laughable? With every word I spoke, Ethan's expression grew more twisted. Until finally, he stood up like a man possessed and snapped, fine, I admit it, I do like Diana. But what's that got to do with loving you? I have so much love to give. What's wrong with sharing a little with someone else? Chapter 6. For a moment I was actually rendered speechless by what Ethan had just said. when I first discovered the truth about him and Diana, I only blamed myself for trusting the wrong person. But now I genuinely started to wonder, was I blind all those years we'd been in love for 10 years, and yet I never realized Ethan's logic was this twisted. But Laura is just an ordinary person. When she loves, she gives it all, so naturally she hopes to receive the same kind of love in return. Sam's voice cut through the chaos, grounding me again. I turned to him with a grateful look. He returned a faint, gentle smile. Taking a deep breath, I turned back to Ethan and said, "You're right. It's your freedom to love whoever you want. But I can't accept that, and that's why we're done. From now on, whoever you love or how many people you love, it has nothing to do with me." Still, Ethan wouldn't give up. "But I love you the most, okay? I admit I like Diana, but nothing happened between us. I never betrayed you. If God had a bird's eye view, he'd probably see me rolling my eyes all the way to the heavens." I couldn't take it anymore. I raised my phone. Diana, panicking, tried to stop me, but I didn't give her the chance. I pulled up the chat history between us, all the photos and videos she sent me, and showed them to Ethan. His expression shifted from confusion to shame to pure fury. "This can't be real. It's fake, Laura. So this is how far you'd go just to break up with me? You photoshopped all this to frame us." But the more he spoke, the weaker his voice became. And then he turned and kicked Diana hard. "Diana, didn't I tell you never to expose our relationship? How dare you send all that to Laura?" Diana, clutching the spot where he kicked her, got up like a woman with nothing left to lose. Her face twisted and she screamed at him. "So what if I sent it to her?" She didn't even have the guts to reply when I messaged her. She just took it all like a loser. Ethan blinked, clearly stunned by how quickly Diana had turned on him. "But I had no interest in watching dogs bite each other. If you two want to fight, do it somewhere else. Don't you dare keep ruining my wedding." I turned to walk back into the hall, but just then Ethan's mother rushed up and grabbed my arm. "No way. You either marry Ethan today or pay back every cent my son spent on you these past 10 years. Ethan's father wasn't far behind, joining in exactly. You parasite, living off our son for a decade, eating our food, spending our money. You wasted his youth. Pay up." Honestly, I almost laughed. And seeing that Ethan had no intention of stopping his parents, I calmly asked, "Then how much do you two think I owe you?" His mother lit up, thinking she was about to win. She hurriedly held up 3 fingers and opened her mouth to speak. But Ethan's father quickly stepped in, raised 5 fingers and shouted, "5 million. You ate my son's food, spent my son's money. That's $500,000 a year. 5 million over 10 years. Seems pretty fair, doesn't it?" Hearing them say that with such self-righteousness, I simply let out a cold laugh. Fair, fair my ass. Ethan's company was started with the 1 million yuan I brought from my family. I was the largest shareholder from the beginning. But for 10 years, I only took a basic salary based on my position, and that was used to cover our living expenses. As a shareholder, all the dividends, I trusted Ethan and let him handle them entirely. So tell me, where
Did that
money go? Chapter 7. Ethan suddenly flinched when he heard this. He hurried over, trying to smooth things over. "Laura, my parents were just talking nonsense. I haven't even agreed to break up yet, and now you're bringing up money." I didn't let him finish. I cut him off immediately. "That's enough, Ethan. Our breakup is a done deal. As for the money, I wasn't planning on digging too deeply. But the one thing you absolutely shouldn't have done was use my money to buy Diana a house." Ethan panicked, trying to explain. "What are you talking about, Laura? That house was our wedding home. Don't you always say you wanted a real home after marriage?" I was trying to surprise you. I looked at Ethan like he was a hopeless clown. My tone was void of all emotion. "Even now, you still think I'm stupid?" Ethan fell silent. Of course, he knew exactly what he had done. He just always assumed I wouldn't do anything about it because I loved him, and he took that for granted. But now none of that mattered anymore, because my new husband stood right beside me, and my new life was just beginning. As I turned to leave, I suddenly thought of something and turned back coldly. Maybe I really was too soft in the past. I used to think if I took a step back, we'd all have peace. But now I realize the more I stepped back, the more you pushed. So now I'm going to take back everything I lost. Then I turned and walked into the wedding hall. My wedding with Sam ended successfully. At the banquet, I drank quite a bit, so much that the old man kept glaring at me like he wanted to kick me under the table. I knew exactly what he was thinking. He was afraid I'd drink too much to do my duty and mess up their chances of having a grandchild. But Sam stayed quietly by my side the whole time, smiling gentle calm. Until we were finally sent into the bridal suite. Through the haze I heard Sam's voice softly comforting me. "You've had a tough time all these years." And then I cried my heart out with my head buried in his lap. The next morning I woke up still in my wedding gown. Sam had fallen asleep sitting beside me against the headboard. For a moment, I felt a pang of guilt. But right alongside it was relief. Relief that I had agreed to this arranged marriage. After Sam accompanied me to pay a return visit to my family, our wedding matters were truly wrapped up. Next up, it's time for me to collect what I'm owed. I brought the legal team that the old man had assigned to me and went straight to Ethan's company. Ethan was in his office, visibly distressed. Diana had disappeared. Apparently right after they stormed out of my wedding, she packed up some valuables and fled with the company's project files. Naturally, those valuables included the property deed for the house Ethan had bought her. When Ethan saw me arrive, his first instinct was to order me around like he always used to. It wasn't until he noticed the legal advisors behind me that he finally realized what I was here for. "Laura, you asked me not to ruin your wedding, and I respected that. Do you really have to throw away 10 years of what we had? Let's be clear. I've always been the largest shareholder of Ethan's company. That never changed. Over the past 10 years, he diluted his own shares more than once for business development, but never touched mine. Not out of affection or sentiment.
No.
It was because even though the shares were mine, he was the one managing them, and I always followed his lead. He still reigned over the company like a petty tyrant, and by diluting only his own stock, he saved face and avoided outside suspicion. But the woman he was so sure would never leave, the one he thought would always obey him, was now standing on the opposite side. Chapter 8. I had decided to restructure the entire company. Naturally, there would no longer be any place for Ethan. When Ethan heard the news, it was like he had found a lifeline. He dropped to his knees and begged, "Laura, you're keeping the company because it holds our memories, right? Please think about everything we've been through. Can you not kick me out? It's okay that you're married. I can be your lover. I've learned so many new tricks. I'll be good, not like Diana. I'll be discreet. Your husband won't even find out." Okay, Laura, before today, even though things had turned sour between us, I never imagined Ethan could become this revolting. Suppressing the nausea rising in my chest, I spoke calmly. "If you could prove your competence as a manager, maybe you'd have had a shot at staying. But now you have no chance." The old man was a pure businessman. To him, acquiring Ethan's company was a matter of timing, opportunity, and leverage. That's why he was willing to support me. To be fair, the company wouldn't have grown this far without Ethan's efforts, combined with my full backing. If the old man only cared about profits, he might have been willing to let Ethan stay on. But unfortunately for Ethan, his tantrum at my wedding didn't go unnoticed. The old man saw it all. He just didn't bother stepping in, preferring to let Ethan and Diana put on their farce like clowns. But I'm sure he took note of Ethan and labeled him what he is, a lunatic. No one trusts a lunatic to make money for them. After leaving a professional team in charge, I left the company and went to look for Sam. And as fate would have it, I ran into Ethan, arms full of boxes, leaving the building. I rolled down the window and gave him one last reminder. "I told you I'd press charges for stealing from my card. I suggest you find Diana, or you'll be taking the fall for her." Giving Diana a house was a gift, but he used my card to do it. Legally, I could have Ethan jailed for credit card fraud. But I wasn't about to let Diana get off easy. And sure enough, nothing motivates a man like the threat of prison. Just 2 days later, Ethan messaged me, "I found Diana." Chapter 9. Turns out Diana had been hiding in the house Ethan bought her. When they found her, she had just come back from partying all night and brought home some flirty young guy. Ethan nearly exploded on the spot. He'd bought that house hoping to keep a mistress in luxury, only to find she just wanted his money. Worse, she was spending his money to sleep with other men. Ethan tried to confront her immediately, but Diana had no more use for him. Without money, he was worth less than a dog. She hurled insults at him one after another until Ethan, always arrogant and proud, began to lose his grip. Though maybe not completely. He still had just enough sense to hold back. They ended up getting into a fight, and the young guy called the police. Both of them were bruised and bloodied when the officers hauled them away. The message Ethan sent me, he typed it when the police were about to let them go. But after sending it, he got angry again and started fighting Diana in front of the station. So they were both dragged back in again until I arrived. The moment Diana saw me, her first instinct was to run. Guess the slap I gave her at the wedding had left a lasting impression. She finally understood what happens when a calm person snaps. As for whether Ethan's punches taught her to fear men too, who knows? It was during this round of questioning that Ethan finally confessed Diana had run off with company funds. That got the police's attention. Further investigation revealed Diana was a serial scammer. With her pretty face and well-practiced charm, she had floated between major cities scamming countless rich old men. But she'd always been cautious, never letting the wives catch on. Until Ethan. He kept offending her, always picking fights with me over her. And I was blindly in love, letting it all slide. That made Diana think she could walk all over me without consequences. Ironically, it was that delusion that landed her in the worst possible situation. She had already contacted a realtor and was planning to sell the house and skip town. But she didn't expect Ethan to find her, let alone end up in jail. Even more ironically, the realtor she contacted happened to know a salesperson in that neighborhood. That salesperson, fearing being implicated in the credit card fraud, was keeping an eye on the property. Once he learned the house was about to be sold, he informed Ethan, which led him straight to Diana. In the end, Diana was convicted of fraud and put in handcuffs. It'll be at least 10 years before she gets out. The house was recovered and sold at a discount. Ethan personally made up the difference, then returned my card with both hands, just to avoid being sued. After that, I cut all contact with him. The next time I heard his name was about 6 months later. I was pregnant and bored at home, so I had Sam take me to visit the newly restructured company. An old employee from Ethan's time told me that someone wanted to send a message. He didn't even finish his sentence before I held up a hand to stop him. Judging by the look on his face, who knows how much of Ethan's story was actually true, but that no longer mattered to me. I placed my hand gently on my belly and said, "If he's a person from the past, then let him stay in the past. Because the future is already moving forward, and there's no turning back."